Aw yeah, gotta go fast. Or rather, as fast as local city ordinances allow, because this time we're going to talk about Sonic Drift 1 and 2. Even with Drift 1 originally only being released as a Japanese exclusive in 1994, these titles are now available on various collections such as the Sonic Mega Collection Plus and the Sonic Gems Collection, as well as the version I'll be playing through Sonic Origins Plus. It's not really for any particular reason besides I already own this game and it gets me higher quality footage than a GameCube would. The Drift games were the first Sonic racing games, and it's the first time that the Hedgehog would limit his speed by playing fair and using a car. I've always loved the concept of Sonic racing in a car because he could just easily hop out of the car and dust every other racer, but he'd rather beat them on an even playing field. Which I find to be great because I think Sonic's best character moments are him being a snarky showboat asshole. Before this video I had known what these games are, but I had never touched them before, so let's go ahead and jump right on in for my first experience with Sonic Drift 1. There is a little bit of a story in this game via the manual. The translation of the original Japanese manual tells us that Eggman converted his flying machine into the fastest race car in the world, or so he thought. And wanting to ruin the rotund rascal's day, as always, Sonic commissions Tails to build him a car to show up Eggman, with Tails and Amy following along with their own cars because they never have anything better to do than follow Sonic apparently. Simple as that, no plans for world domination or anything. Eggman just got a new hobby and Sonic wanted to fuck his day up for fun. So, how do we control our quirky new toys? This being a Game Gear game, we don't have many buttons, so not many options to worry about. You've got B to accelerate and A to brake, as well as the D-pad to steer. And if you combine all three on turns, you will drift, which is really only necessary on the sharper turns, but if you overcorrect, you will spin out and stop for a moment. And finally, up on the D-pad, we'll use your character's special move, which I'll say more about later. The physics of Drift 1 are really strange, because you kind of correct back to the center of the stage constantly. This means while you can slide off the course or slow down and crash into obstacles, you are unable to fall off the boundaries as there really are none. One issue at first may be developing the proper reaction time. With this game being on the Game Gear, there's a small zoomed in view all the time, which in the case of this game means that turns can sneak up on you pretty quickly, but this is alleviated by the map on the top showing you upcoming turns in pretty good detail. Sonic Drift has a unique feel to it, where it doesn't really feel like it's contemporary Super Mario Kart, but after a few races it almost feels like second nature. Like, the best way I could describe it is that things function in a very weird but definitely intentional and consistent way. Moving on, there are 4 main power-ups in the game: the rings, the spring, the red monitor, and the blue monitor, each of which are scattered throughout the various tracks laying in the middle of the respective paths. All you need to do to activate them is just drive over them. First, the rings are used to activate your character's special abilities, which I'll touch on later. Then, the most beneficial power-up is the spring, which bounces your character in the air, which allows you to pass other characters and potential obstacles in the way. The best part about it being that it autopilots you for a few seconds, so it can be very helpful if there's one before a sharp curve. There's also 2 types of monitors. Red just gives you a decent speed boost. The blue monitor gives you a brief window of invincibility, which allows you to pass through opponents, obstacles, and traps. However, you can still spin out if you overdrift. This little jingle that plays during the duration is definitely my favorite track in the game by far. There is a weird interaction with the power-ups where if you hit the second power-up while the first one is still active, the second one will override the first one. For instance, if you're in invincibility and then you hit a spring, the invincibility will cancel no matter how far into the process you are. Alright, so as we know, half of a kart racer's legitimacy rests on its character's viability and/or variability. So let's take a look at how Sonic Drift stacks up. For Drift 1, we have a whopping 4 characters: Sonic, Tails, Eggman, and Amy. That's it. Each of the characters have their own top speed, acceleration, and handling stats, as well as a special ability that they can use at the cost of 2 rings. Now, you might be wondering where Knuckles is, but Sonic 3 just came out about 2 months before this, so they probably didn't have time to add him in. Sonic, of course, is the speedster character in this game, boasting the highest top speed and acceleration, but also the worst turning ability as a side effect. However, his drifting ability is still pretty good, so as long as you can consistently time your drifts, you should be okay. I like to think of Sonic as the Chaos mode in this game, almost like 200cc in Mario Kart 8, where even if you hit what feels like a perfectly timed drift, he will still be near the edge of the course every time. Even his special move adds to this chaos, with it just being the same as the red box boost power-up that you can use on the fly. Sonic is definitely the best choice for any courses that feature a larger amount of rounded turns or straightaways. Tails is the balanced option of this game, with the middle options in both speed and acceleration, but with great handling. While certainly the vanilla ice cream option for Sonic Drift, Tails is definitely my favorite character to use, and in my opinion he has the best balance of speed and handling out of all the characters. He even has the best special ability, with it being functionally a spring that you can whip out of your pocket to save you from going off the course or hitting an obstacle. Eggman is your typical heavy racing character, with the highest top speed but god-awful acceleration. Getting hit as Eggy feels just like the morning after having more than 2 drinks past the age of 22. like you just can't move and you'll want to die. He's definitely my least favorite character to use out of the 4. He is also tied for the worst special move in the game with Amy's, as they are completely useless in single player. Eggman's special move is throwing down a mine that is supposed to act like a banana from Mario Kart and just make whoever hits it slow down and spin out, which would work all well and good in versus mode, but for single player it never did anything in my experience. I kept putting them down, but anytime one of the CPUs would pass where I put it down, they would never slow down or spin out or anything. And sure enough, when I pass it on the next lap, it's still there, so I'm pretty sure they just can't hit it in single player. Finally, we have Amy, who's your standard light character with lower top speed than everyone else, but she gets there almost immediately with her high acceleration, which usually will lead to strong starts, but then Sonic will catch up to you pretty quickly. While she's definitely better than Eggman, Amy feels like the diet version of Tails, because her acceleration difference is negligible to the speed difference that Tails offers, and he handles just as well as Amy. Like I mentioned earlier, her special is also functionally useless in single player. It's another deployable item like Eggman's mine, so the CPUs never hit it anyway, and it wouldn't matter if they did because all it does is flip your controls, which the CPU can figure out on the fly. Overall, I think Sonic Drift does a good job of representing kart racer archetypes and making all the characters feel unique to one another. Now, unfortunately, they did create an objectively best character with Tails, but you could argue that with perfect handling, Sonic is the better option if you're able to manage his higher top speed properly. If I had to tier list the characters in this game, it would probably look something like this. When you've picked the character that interests you most, we can head into one of 3 different modes. First, we have Free Run, which is just your standard time trial mode. Nothing special, just 3 laps by yourself, and try for the best time possible. There is a multiplayer versus mode in this game where 2 human racers can face off in a 1v1 race, which I did not play because I didn't want to subject anyone I know to playing Sonic Drift in the year of our Lord 2025. Next up is our main attraction, the hallmark of any kart racer, the Grand Prix mode, Chaos GP. The 3 Grand Prix are green, yellow, and red, all consisting of 6 courses with 3 laps each. The courses are not varied at all. Each GP features different variants of the same theme based on the 6 zones from Sonic 1. So we have 3 different versions of courses themed around Green Hill, Marble, Spring Yard, Labyrinth, Starlight, and Scrap Brain zones in that order. There are 2 difficulties of normal and hard that you can toggle in the options menu. All that changes is that CPUs accelerate a bit faster after wiping out, which really doesn't change much, or at least not that I could notice. Each course is pretty short, it only lasts between 1 to 1.5 minutes. Scoring wise, you get 0 to 3 points depending on your placing, and I like this style of scoring more than that of the variable scoring of Mario Kart because I feel it keeps the final result a lot closer, and it always feels like you can make a comeback after some not good placings. First up in the Green GP, we got Green Hill 1, which is just your standard first track with its near oval shape and wide right turns. It's a good starting track to ease you into the physics of the game for sure. The music of the Green Hill tracks is a little bit too chaotic for my liking, especially for the beginner stages of each cup. Marble 1 is a bit of a deceptive stage. It seems like a fairly simple loop, and for the most part is, except for one part. This turn at the top is the first example of the hardest turns in the game, where you have to go from one direction turn directly into the other, which is a pain to deal with, especially when using Sonic. This also starts the kind of funny pattern of Marble and Labyrinth zones being the 2 worst ones, which mirrors their places in Sonic 1 as well. I quite like the Marble zone music, even though it's a really short and simple loop. The part where the tone lowers sounds really nice to me. Spring Yard 1 is a very solid stage that is well designed as well as fair in the turns it throws at you, but still a little tricky if you're not paying attention, especially on this zigzag toward the end of the stage. It's definitely my favorite course of the Green GP. I also really like the music from this stage. It gives the vibes of a rival battle taking place, and it almost feels like a song from Sonic Riders put into the Game Gear sound font. Labyrinth 1 is by far and away the worst course in the Green GP, and on average, Labyrinth is the worst of any of the level themes. Here we have an incredibly boring oval-shaped left side, as well as 2 straight lines that lead into this U-turn on the right side, which are by far the worst types of turns to deal with in Drift 1. And even the music is bad for this course, with a very high-pitched tune that feels really out of place for a Ruin-themed level. Up next is Starlight 1, and with it, a pretty boring stage with 2 long straightaways without much else to boost it up. I think Starlight has the best visual design of any of the themes, plus it has the most fitting song of any stage with this mystical-sounding song that fits the spacey theme of Starlight really well. Scrap Brain starts my favorite overall level theme, as it being the final stage in each GP leads to it having the most challenging and interesting course designs. In the case of Scrap Brain 1, we are greeted with a simple beginning, but even the straightaway is angled, so we do need to hold steady while moving up the path, as well as the exciting right side that shows Labyrinth how to properly do a U-turn shape with wider turn angles that use the same design style. Scrap Brain also has the best song in the game with this menacing low tune that fits incredibly well for a final race theme. It's definitely my favorite song outside the Invincibility theme. Once we're done with Scrap Brain, we are finished with our first GP. I actually like Green GP quite a bit, even though there's some courses that are a bit boring, none of them are egregiously bad like some of the later ones. Before we move on to the Yellow GP, let's pause to take a look at the graphics. The raceways themselves are always a striped road with 2 different shades of blue, with a candy cane styled border on the side with the exterior terrain being colored to fit the level theme. The character sprites are fairly well detailed and expressive for the system they're on and stand out well against the background. The highlight is definitely the backgrounds of the stages, as they boast some pretty impressive sprite work for the time and look great in HD, especially Green Hill, Starlight, and Scrap Brain. Alright, enough about the look, let's jump into the next GP. To start us off in the Yellow GP is Green Hill 2, which is is by far and away the easiest course in the game. The design is just a rounded rectangle with long straightaways and 4 right turns, nothing really special here at all. Marble 2 is one of my favorite courses in the game, as it's still the generic oval shape but with a bit more flavor with a few added left turns as opposed to all rights. Nothing too crazy, but one of my favorites for sure. Next up, we have a bottom 3 stage of the game with Spring Yard 2. Mostly due to this stupidly sharp U-turn featuring an entrance turn that comes up way sooner than the map indicates. But also this zigzag on the right side, which is annoying but not nearly as bad. It's really just always an annoying one to navigate when it comes up. Coincidentally, up next is the very worst course in the game, Labyrinth 2. Labyrinth 2 is just 2 straightaways with the sharpest U-turn in the game directly after an angled drift in the opposite direction. So with this one, you're either bored out of your skull holding B and turning right, or you're nearly sliding off the course on the hardest turn in the game, which is not a combo that'll lead to a lot of success. Luckily, we next have a palette cleanser with my second favorite stage in the game, Starlight 2. This course is super fun to play with the constant wide turns and mega bubble turn on the left side with very few straightaways leading to a fun gameplay experience. And finally, we have Scrap Brain 2 to wrap up the yellow GP. This stage is just okay, it's a decent challenge for a final race, but it does feature both zigzags and U-turns, but these instances are fairly tame in comparison to others. And so ends the yellow GP. I'd definitely say my least favorite GP overall. It does have my second favorite course, but other than that, every course is either awful or incredibly boring. Green Hill 3 is my favorite variant of the stage, and a great way to begin the red GP, because half the stage is just an oval shape, but the top right portion breaks off into an interesting pointed shape that gives a decent amount of flavor to the design. Marble 3 is really interesting as well. It has a very unique shape compared to the rest of the courses. It has a bunch of random turns that form a sort of rock looking shape that is really neat for the zone named after a rock. Spring Yard 3 is pretty boring, it's just an oval with a dent in it and reminds me of that Chicago bean statue. Kinda boring, but I like the fully round turns. Up next is our second worst stage, and surprise surprise, it's another Labyrinth Zone course. Labyrinth 3 is a 55% nightmare. We have a right turn into an opposite direction drift, which does not fit the design on the map at all, and as well as this fucky zigzag U-turn thing on the left side that is a nightmare to control. Starlight 3 is a really cool stage. I think it fits the racetrack style well with its sharp yet rounded turns and not too long or plentiful straightaways. And then finally, Scrap Brain 3 is my favorite course in the game. It's very fitting for the final course in the game being the longest, but also having the most well laid out turns and only one true straightaway. It does have one zigzag, but I'm willing to overlook that with the rest of the course being as fun as it is. And with that great finale, we have the end of our final GP. Beating a GP gets you a cute little podium scene telling you congratulations for completing it first and try again if you're ready lower. If you beat all 3 with each character, you get a unique ending cutscene upon completion. For Sonic, it just shows him blazing past in his car, throwing a cheeky thumbs up. Tails' cutscene is cute, with him riding up in his car and getting out and flying into the air above the other racers in celebration. Eggman's is the best because it starts with him gloating as he does and then getting chased down by Sonic. Amy's is about what you would expect it to be for this time period, just immediately fawning over Sonic and him looking creeped out. So there you have Sonic Drift 1. I was very pleasantly surprised, as going into this game I had no idea what it was like, but coming out I get a pretty fun retro kart racer to go back to every once in a while. And I mean this with the utmost sincerity, this game is so much better than Super Mario Kart and it's not even funny. Before you ask, yes, I actually have been playing a ton of that game recently and the physics make no sense and the track layout is nonsensical and the AI is broken. So honestly, give me Sonic Drift any day of the week. Alright, time for Drift 2, and oh my god, what the hell did they do? This sequel at its core retains the core elements of its predecessor, but everything's just worse. I'll go into more detail later, but to sum it up, everything is smaller, the physics are worse, the power-up system is worse, and holy shit, by far the worst thing is the insane rubber banding in the GP mode. Now, it's not all bad because they did add in more characters, track diversity, and more mechanics to spice things up, even if they're not the best. Now, story-wise, there's nothing really here. The manual only tells us that the next Chaos Grand Prix has started, and this time we got 7 entrants. This game looks fantastic. The courses are even more detailed, and the character animations look great as well, all very expressive and a neat title screen to boot. Controls-wise, Drift 2 is exactly the same as Drift 1. It has exactly the same button layout, and the turning feels pretty much the same to me. But the biggest difference being that the course is a bit skinnier this time around, so it may change your drift timings a bit, but not too much. But there's just something up with the depth perception of these tracks that makes it almost impossible for me to hit the power-ups in the middle of the road. But then the straightaways are riddled with obstacles like poles or rocks that always make me spin out. Now for the absolute worst part about this game, the CPUs just straight up fucking cheat in ways I have barely ever seen before. In a weird way, they feel exactly like the 150cc CPUs from Mario Kart 64. The less important comparison is when you use a boost ability or a monitor, they just keep up with you even without one, similar to how Mario 64 when you use a mushroom and you just don't get ahead at all. More importantly, the rubber banding is just fucking insane. Just look at Fang's icon just blow past me as I make no mistakes here. Also, they just straight up use power-ups they don't have. Like here when Sonic uses a boost when there hasn't been 2 rings or a red monitor in the race yet. I was originally going to go for first place in every GP with every character, similar to how I did it in Drift 1. but the way the AI behaves in this game just made me want to get through it as soon as possible, so I just completed 1 GP with each character. And keep in mind, this is all in normal mode. I didn't even have the courage to try hard mode in this game. They also revamped the power-up system a bit, but in a way that I think is pretty negative. On top of the returning rings, there are now 4 types of monitors. The same red boost and blue invincibility, but also a black monitor that allows you to place a smaller mine behind you that is a bit weaker than Eggman's. And the dumbest one is the yellow monitor, which takes the places of springs in this game. Which is all well and good, but there's still springs, so like, what's the point? Aside from the monitors, we have 2 new power-ups. The flash, which just makes the screen flash white for a second, and the reverse orb, which flips your controls for about 3 seconds with no indication as to when they're fixed. My main gripe with the new power-up system is that the monitors are now stored instead of an instant activation, which isn't a terrible thing on the surface, but it's mapped to the same button used to activate your special ability. So that means you cannot use your special until you get rid of the item, and you also cannot collect another item until you use the one that you already have. It's nothing that breaks the game or anything, but it's just something that really annoys me. Now let's take a look at the characters and those special abilities I've been mentioning. Character options wise, we have the same 4 from Drift 1, but we also have 3 newcomers: Knuckles, Fang the Sniper, and Metal Sonic. Sonic is still the same danger-filled speedster as before, but for reasons I'll explain later, he is now the best character in the game because of his special dash ability. Tails is still the solid handler he's always been, but the special spring ability doesn't work quite as well as it previously did, so he is a bit worse. And in general, top speed is the most prioritized thing in this game. So while the acceleration and good handling is nice, it's a bit less important in this game. Eggman is still the same annoyingly slow accelerating heavy as always, but it's not quite as bad in 2 as it was in 1. However, his special is a bit better now, as depending on if you're in first or not, you can either place the mine behind you or chuck it forward to the racer in front of you. Up next we have Amy, and because of one singular mechanic, she is now one of the worst characters in the game. She is still the lightest character with the lowest top speed and highest acceleration, and her special also got a revamp where it can be used in the forward-backward mechanic like Eggman's, but also now cuts the opponent's speed to 50% for about 5 seconds. Her main sinking point is her weight, because in Drift 2, bumping into racers works a bit differently than Drift 1. In the first game, each character had a weight priority, and as long as you didn't hit straight on, the later character would get bumped out of the way. But in Drift 2, if Amy touches any pixel of another racer, she spins out due to how the weight priority in this game works. So you'll find yourself constantly spinning out at the slightest touch with Amy in this game, and it just sucks. Now on to the newbies, we first have good old Knuckles. Knuckles is really just a stat swap of Tails. He has a slightly higher top speed and worse acceleration and handling than Yellow Fox, but it seems to be that the ratios are exactly the same because he feels nearly identical to play. It also doesn't help that his special is the exact same as Tails as well, except when used next to an enemy, he'll just punch them instead and make them spin out. I'd say he's a slightly better version of Tails overall. Up next, the robotic doppelganger, Metal Sonic. And true to his purpose, is a carbon copy of Sonic stat-wise. He feels exactly the same to play. But he is still the second best character in the game due to their differences in special ability. Metal's special is called the Super Boost, which functions the same as Sonic's, but it lasts a bit longer. But the unique part is you need 3 rings to activate it instead of the normal 2. But I find it to be harder to collect and hang on to rings with how this game controls, so I find Sonic to have the edge for that reason. Last up is Fang the Sniper, and Jesus Christ, what happened? This dude is roughly as fast as Knuckles, and his special ability is an oil ball that functions the same as Eggman's mine. But what doesn't make sense is his handling. I swear I couldn't precisely turn at all with this motherfucker. Just overall a horrible character to use. My character tier list of the game would look something like this. Game mode wise, it's also exactly the same, just the Chaos GP, Free Run, Versus, and Options. The structure of the GPs is the same, with 6 courses featuring 4 racers again and also being scored the same. Since we have more than 4 characters, we can actually choose our opponents or let the game randomly choose for us. I found the easiest combo to beat was Eggman, Amy, and Fang, with Tails as a sub if I'm playing as one of those 3. The course themes are much more diverse this time around, with only a few repeating themes, but even those are mostly unique. Most of the tracks are just the usual 3-lap loop, but this game also does add in very long courses that are just 1 lap, kind of like Mount Wario and Mario Kart 8. The courses are also much longer now, usually lasting anywhere from 1.5 to 3 minutes. Once again, we have 3 Chaos Emerald themed GPs, with the purple, white, and blue GPs. First up, we have the purple GP, so let's take a look. First up, it's Emerald Hill 1, and I actually really like this stage. It's a good first level, being pretty simple, but interesting enough to not just be a boring oval. Visually, I like the bright, beachy aesthetic, and music-wise, it's a fun, upbeat tune that fits the lighter theme of this course. Hilltop 1 is the first of our long 1-lap stages, and I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off on this one. These stages generally suck in my opinion. Part of the fun of a kart racer is learning the layouts of this stage throughout the first few laps and then using that knowledge to improve throughout the race. But with the 1-lap style, it might as well just be guessing where the obstacles are going to come up. And because you have to travel so far in just 1 lap, there ends up being a ton of straightaways. For Hilltop, there's a lot of very slow turns with like 6 straightaways with these stupid ramp things that pop up a few times throughout the game and don't really do anything. Visually, it's a pretty boring mountain background, but I do really like the music and it gives me fun hiking adventure vibes. Dark Valley 1 is up next, and these are by far the worst stages in the game. The way they they render the boardwalk theme is just nauseating to look at. And both variations of this stage have the worst obstacle in the game, with these pits that just appear out of nowhere without any markings on the map. You need to hit the spring in the middle of the road or else you are going off, which is nearly impossible if you don't know exactly where they're coming up. Visually, the backgrounds are just super boring, with a few mountaintops to adorn a black lower half and a gray sky. The music is actually quite cool for these stages. It kind of feels like a fusion between Castlevania and Mario Haunted House music. Casino Night is a really cool stage overall. It has a very cool color scheme and music that both fit the casino theme very well. The course itself is probably the best in the game as well, with turns that are well balanced and placed with none of them feeling unfair, as well as minimal straightaways. It's probably my favorite course in the game if I had to choose. Desert Road 1 is a really cool course as well. It's a pretty simple shape but with cool sharp turns. It also features these half-pipe things that don't really provide a unique function, but they look pretty cool for the Game Gear. I am also a sucker for a desert theme level in general, and the music is super cool too. However, I do feel the music is more themed to like an Egyptian desert, but the background is definitely meant to be a more Wild West style desert. And then finally, we have Iron Ruin, which design-wise is fine, but a little boring, except for this stupid robot bird thing that just grabbed onto me and slowed me down to 50%, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to shake him off, so I just got last for no reason. Style-wise, I love this post-apocalyptic metal city theme, the intense music, and I'm definitely a sucker for a black and red color scheme. The purple GP is a great start to the game with mostly solid stages. Unfortunately, it is also the best one, so it's really only downhill from here. First in the white GP is Desert Road 2. While not as good as the first, it is still a solid stage. This time around, we have a one-lap course, so bleh to that, but the layout is really cool with these soft zigzags in the beginning and the cool transitions to the cave portions that look really cool for the hardware. Up next, the fucking nightmare known as Rainy Savannah. Not only is the track layout extremely boring and the background doesn't look anything like a savannah, but there's also so-so music. But also every 5 seconds, the entire fucking screen flashbangs you in a full blinding white for about a second to get you to miss a turn. And in my case, mission damn well accomplished. This stage just hurts to play, and it's absolutely the worst track between both games. At least next is a palette cleanser with Ice Cap. Based on one of my favorite Sonic 3 zones, Ice Cap is a simple oval shape with icy half-pipes, almost like an Olympic winter course. The music here is also a jam. Hilltop 2 is a really good course as well. Back to a traditional 3-lapper, we have a solid, interesting layout. Sans the way too long straight on the top, but it's not too shabby beside that. Mystic Cave is okay. The rocks in the middle of the road are super annoying and it's way too long, but I do like the cave effect a lot. The music is super annoying, so definitely bleh to that as well. Last but not least, Emerald Hill 2 is a really solid stage. It's designed kind of similar to Emerald Hill 1 in a way. It's nothing spectacular, but solid overall and a good way to end the white GP. The white GP is the worst one. Period. It has Rainy Savannah, and I'm not explaining any further. Up first in the blue GP is Dark Valley 2. It pretty much has all the same issues as Dark Valley 1, but it's a bit shorter, so it's better for that reason. Quake Cave is a worse version of Mystic Cave. The course layout is less interesting, and the music is just a more high-pitched and annoying version of the former. The only thing it adds is that occasionally the screen will shake and rocks will fall randomly and make you spin out. Balloon Panic is super cool. Its design is challenging yet fair, and it even replaces the monitors with balloons, which is a nice touch even if they just function the same. The music here is sick in a way I just can't describe. It just scratches the right itch. Emerald Ocean is up next and is definitely the most confusing track of all. The design itself is a pretty standard layout, but the visuals are horrid. The track is the same color as the side, so it makes it really difficult to see turns coming up when it all looks the same. Also, I have no idea what happens when you fall off the side. You kind of just blip out of existence and then reappear far down from where you fell off, so it's like you didn't lose any time at all. It's nothing awful, but I really have no clue what's happening here. The music is really cool though, it fits that beach vibe perfectly. Milky Way comes next, and man, what an awesome stage. It's effectively this game's Rainbow Road, with the crew racing on a translucent track floating in outer space, with a singular long lap, ending with you entering the Death Egg. Track design-wise, it's not the greatest, with a third of it just being that straightaway at the top, but man, the music for this track slaps. Just take a listen. It's just such a great upbeat track for this Outer Space Odyssey. And last but not completely least, we have the Death Egg. Unfortunately, a disappointing end to the game. In concept, the race course being Eggman shaped is pretty cool. And they did it before Yoshi's Circuit was even a twinkle in Papa Miyamoto's eye. But to actually play, it's not very fun because all it is just slamming left and right to barely navigate the zigzags until you drive straight for about 8 seconds. Also, the music here isn't great in my opinion because I'm just not a fan of the high-pitched 8-bit wails. I gotta say, I overall do like the Blue GP with Balloon Panic and Milky Way, but then it does get bogged down by Emerald Ocean and Dark Valley 2. So, what's the point of doing all these races? When you finish a GP race in first, you will get rewarded with a Chaos Emerald, which doesn't matter except in the Blue GP, where if you finish first on every race, you enter into the final GP. The final GP is just a 1v1 race on the Death Egg course again, with your opponent being based on who you're playing as. If you're playing as Sonic, Knuckles, Amy, or Tails, you'll face the Eggman, and if you're playing as Eggy, Metal, or Fang, you face Sonic. The completion reward, notice the singular phrasing there, is a lot less exciting, because whether you beat the final GP as either a hero or a villain, you just get the same brown mural of all the characters atop the credits. It's just very lame compared to the customized character scenes of Drift 1. And really, it's not surprising that the endings are disappointing, because that really just sums up the whole Sonic Drift 2 experience. It's just a worse version of its preceding game in just about every single way. So there you have the full experience of Sonic's racing game debut. And I gotta say, I was very pleasantly surprised with Sonic Drift 1. I kinda just assumed it would be a dumb meme game that I could laugh at, but no, I actually got a great experience out of it, and I plan to revisit it every once in a while. I'm not kidding or rage baiting when I say this game is legitimately more fun to play than Super Mario Kart. That game is ridiculously bullshit. Now, Drift 2 is certainly not as good. Everything core from Drift 1 is there, but it's all just way worse to play, and most of the new ideas that added in just suck to deal with. I think the best way to describe Drift 2 is bigger, bolder, but worse. It's unfortunately just a disappointing way to close off this little sub-series. But overall, these are just the opinions of a guy who plays way too many games and still sucks at them. If you somehow played these wacky sub-games before, let me know what you think about them in the comments below. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by, and if you've been around the block before, welcome home, friend. Thank you for all the love on my previous videos, and I hope you'll be back for the future ones as well. And while it's not a super lofty goal, I'm currently shooting for 100 subscribers, so if you could, please hit that button to help me on my way there. Personally, I think we can definitely get there. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, and check out more Sonic games. They can be pretty cool sometimes, even when you're not expecting it. See you later, alligators.